We live in a world that tells us to armor up, be strong, be sure, be impressive. But here's what I've learned, what I know in my bones. Growth doesn't happen behind armor. Transformation doesn't happen when you're performing for applause. It happens when you show up as you are. Uncertain, imperfect, a little shaky, but still willing. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's risk, it's emotional exposure, and it's the most accurate measurement of courage that I know. You don't get to leap into something extraordinary without first stepping into the unknown. There's a certain seduction in staying busy. Hustle is noisy. It makes us feel like we're doing something, moving. But motion isn't the same thing as direction. And chaos can become a lifestyle. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's just that quiet spinning inside your chest when you're saying yes to too many things, trying to please too many people, chasing after goals that aren't even yours. Let me be real with you. Average lives are full of chaos. Fortune, however you define it, requires clarity. I once worked with a founder who had a million ideas. He was smart, charismatic, endlessly creative, but he was also exhausted. His business was stuck, and so was he. Every week he'd chase a new strategy, a new must-do, a new trend. One day I asked him, what is the one thing you actually want to be known for? And he froze. He had never asked himself that. Here's the truth. Chaos isn't always about too much noise. It's about too little alignment. When you don't know who you are, what you value, or where you're going, you end up in a life full of tangled obligations. You burn energy on things that don't matter and wonder why you feel so tired and unseen. Clarity is what cuts through all that. Clarity says, this is what I stand for. Clarity says, this is where I'm going. Clarity says, this is what I will say no to because I've said yes to something bigger. But clarity isn't given to us, it's claimed. And claiming it can be uncomfortable because it means letting go of the false stories we've believed. It means looking at our choices and asking, is this aligned with who I want to become? Clarity starts with questions. What matters to me, even if no one claps? What am I pretending not to know? What have I said yes to that's costing me my peace? Who am I becoming through my daily decisions? Clarity also demands boundaries, and boundaries will upset people. That's part of it. Saying yes to clarity often means saying no to chaos. And that no may disappoint others, but it will free you. One of the bravest things you'll ever do is to get honest with yourself about where your energy is going, to stop doing things out of guilt or fear or habit and start choosing from a place of truth. Because fortune follows focus, not scattered effort, not kind of, sorta. Clarity turns the volume down on all the noise so you can finally hear your own voice. And when that voice gets clear, really clear on where it's going, that's when things start to move. We love them, we write them on vision boards, we speak them into journals, we imagine how they'll feel when they finally arrive. And that's beautiful because vision gives us hope. But let's be honest, vision without discipline is just a really vivid fantasy. The hard truth, most people don't fail because their dream wasn't good enough. They fail because they didn't build the bridge to get there. That bridge, it's called discipline. Discipline is showing up when the motivation is gone. It's doing the work no one sees. It's the early mornings, the uncomfortable conversations, the no thank you when distractions come knocking. We live in a culture that praises the hustle and glamorizes the highlight reel, but what actually creates fortune is often deeply unsexy. It's the system you build, the habits you protect, the rituals you repeat when no one is clapping. I worked with a creative once, brilliant, inspired, passionate. She had this dream of writing a book, but every time she sat down to write, she'd say, "I'm not in the mood," or "it's not flowing today." And listen, I get it. I'm a big believer in honoring energy and listening to your soul. But the people who finish the book, build the business, launch the dream, they don't wait for the mood. They train for the mission. Because here's the thing, discipline isn't punishment, it's devotion. It's saying this dream matters enough that I'm willing to show up messy, tired, imperfect, but present. It's showing up because the future version of you is depending on it. And no, discipline won't always feel good. Some days it will feel boring, lonely, unfair. But that's the price of entry to the life you're here to build. Vision shows you the mountain. Discipline gets your boots on every morning to climb it. And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. Discipline is built one decision at a time, 1 hour at a time, one sacred yes at a time. If you're sitting there thinking, I have a dream, but it feels so far away, let me ask you, what does your next hour look like? What will you actually do when this speech ends? Because fortune doesn't land in your lap. It's built brick by brick, day by day, by the people who show up even when it's hard. So be one of those people. Discipline is the bridge. And the beautiful thing is, you already have the tools to start building. Some of them are loud, obvious, and dramatic, but most, they're quiet, subtle, the kind of stories that live in the background of our lives, shaping our choices, our relationships, our self-worth, without us even realizing it. And here's the truth, those stories will run your life until you name them. See, it's easy to think that success or fortune or making it means we outrun our pain. That if we just get the promotion, the platform, the praise, then the shame, the fear, the old stuff will disappear. But it doesn't work that way. What you bury doesn't die. It leaks into how you show up, how you trust, how you lead, how you love. I once coached a man who had built a wildly successful business. From the outside, he had it all: money, recognition, influence. But underneath it, he was exhausted, short-tempered, constantly doubting himself. When we started digging, it didn't take long to uncover the root. He had spent his whole life trying to prove to his father, who had walked out when he was 12, that he was worthy. And here's what broke him wide open. He realized he wasn't running a business. He was running from rejection. That's what happens when we don't acknowledge our pain. We build lives designed to protect our wounds instead of heal them. And even when we succeed, it doesn't feel like enough because we're not really chasing dreams, we're chasing safety. But healing doesn't come from pretending. It doesn't come from performing strength. It comes from truth. You have to be willing to say, this hurt me. You have to be brave enough to admit this still lives in me. And then with compassion, not judgment, you begin the work of healing. Acknowledgement is not about assigning blame. It's about reclaiming power. Because when you name the story, you get to decide how it ends. You stop being driven by the part of you that's still trying to survive and start living from the part of you that's ready to thrive. This step, this is where people get stuck because it's easier to stay busy than to get honest. It's easier to perform perfection than to process pain. But if you want to rise from average to fortune, from stuck to soaring, you have to clear the weight that's holding you down. Ask yourself, what story am I still carrying that no longer serves me? What pain have I minimized because I thought it made me weak? What would become possible if I forgave myself? Because fortune isn't just about money or metrics. It's about freedom, emotional, mental, spiritual freedom. And that freedom starts with truth. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. But the moment you do, you become unstoppable. Let's be honest. Cheerleaders feel good. They clap, they affirm, they tell us we're doing great. Even when we're not sure, they remind us that we're loved, seen, and capable. And there's a place for that, absolutely. Encouragement matters. But if all you ever get is applause, you may start mistaking comfort for growth. Because real growth, it happens when someone you trust looks you in the eye and says, I love you, and you're playing small. I believe in you, and you're hiding. You're better than this version of yourself. That kind of truth, it's not always soft, but it's sacred. I remember working with a woman who wanted to launch a leadership consultancy. She was smart, gifted, full of potential, but she kept shrinking, playing safe, staying in her corporate role because it was responsible. And everyone around her, they nodded, said she was doing the right thing, that maybe it just wasn't time. Except one person, her younger sister. One day, her sister said, you keep saying you're waiting for the right moment, but the truth is you're scared. And we're all letting you lie to yourself because we don't want to upset you. That was the moment everything changed. See, cheerleaders are lovely, but truth tellers, they're rare and essential. Because here's what no one tells you on the road from average to fortune. Your environment is either feeding your expansion or enabling your excuses. Read that again. The people you surround yourself with matter. If you're constantly the smartest, strongest, most ambitious person in the room, it might be time to find a new room. One where you're stretched. One where people are building things that intimidate you a little. One where feedback isn't sugar-coated and where your comfort zone isn't coddled. It's called out. Now, let's be clear. I'm not talking about surrounding yourself with critics or cynics. I'm talking about accountability with compassion. People who know your heart and your potential. People who won't let you lie to yourself. People who say, you're not just capable, you're responsible for your gift. Those people, they don't just clap for you when you win. They challenge you when you drift. They hold the vision for you when you forget it yourself. You're not meant to do this alone. No one builds a life of fortune, however you define it, without community, without counsel, without a circle that reflects your higher self back to you, especially on the days when you forget who you are. So ask yourself, who in my life tells me the truth even when it's uncomfortable? Who challenges me to go further, be braver, dream bigger? Who do I need to distance myself from to protect my progress? It might mean walking away from relationships rooted in comfort or nostalgia. It might mean stepping into rooms that scare you. It might mean saying yes to mentorship, coaching, partnership, anything that pushes you to level up. Because here's the deal. Average is surrounded by approval. A fortune is surrounded by alignment. Choose people who sharpen you because iron sharpens irons and comfort dulls ambition. Fortune, whether it's financial, emotional, or spiritual, is something that happens to you, like one day you wake up and there it is sitting on your doorstep, waiting to change your life. But fortune doesn't find you. It doesn't fall from the sky or appear out of nowhere. Fortune is forged, it's built, it's earned through grit, consistency, sacrifice, and sometimes painful lessons that reshape us into people who are worthy of it. You don't find your fortune like a hidden treasure. You create it through every choice you make, every action you take, every decision to stand back up when life knocks you down. There was a time in my life when I was convinced that success was about waiting for the right opportunity. I kept thinking that if I could just be in the right place at the right time, everything would align. I thought my breakthrough would come if I just waited long enough. But here's the truth. I had to learn the hard way. Opportunity doesn't come knocking. You have to build it. Fortune isn't a stroke of luck. It's a process of becoming. Think about it like forging steel. A blacksmith takes raw metal and with repeated hammering, heating, and shaping, they turn it into something strong, sharp, and beautiful. The process is loud, it's hot, it's messy, and it requires patience. The blacksmith doesn't sit around waiting for a perfect piece of metal to magically appear. They take what they have and they create the masterpiece. You are the blacksmith of your own life. And I know what you might be thinking. I'm not strong enough. I don't have the right resources. The odds are stacked against me. But that's exactly where most people get it wrong. The real strength isn't in the tools you have. It's in your willingness to keep hammering away day after day, even when things get tough. Look, nobody gets to skip the process. It's easy to look at people who seem to have it all together and assume they were just born lucky. But what you don't see is the forging that happened behind the scenes, the failures, the struggles, the sacrifices, the early mornings and late nights that shaped their journey. You want to know the secret of people who create their fortune? They decide to step into the fire. They choose to be forged. And it's not just about ambition. It's about resilience. It's about the quiet strength that comes from deciding time and time again to stay in the game. You don't get to skip over the hard parts. The grind is where you find your true power. And here's the good news. It's never too late. Your fortune doesn't have a deadline. It's not some elusive, far-off thing you'll only achieve by a certain age or in a certain stage of your life. It's yours to claim right now. All it takes is the willingness to begin forging. Maybe it means taking that first messy step toward your dream. Maybe it means having the hard conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it means choosing to keep showing up even when